Welcome, friends and fiends. Yes, I am a disembodied voice talking to you from my stand still frame picture thing. Wow, I'm doing great with this intro. Anyways, so today is a special edition of the Wizardly Warehouse Productions channel. What we're doing is in celebration of the uh, what is this? Write it forward or play it forward?
Play it forward, 110%.
Yeah, so in support of that, what Eric and I have done is we've put together a list of our top 10 things that we would use on the drop of a hat and just kind of use to bolster our campaign or to start a campaign or to help us run a one shot or something like that, just to kind of fill in the gaps where we might have a drop in creativity or something like that, or just things that we really, really enjoy. So, with that being said, we hope you friends and fiends all enjoyed this episode. And with that, I will pass it to you, Eric, and please take it away with your top 10 first.
Oh, okay. Like all of them all in a row?
Yeah, why not? And then we'll go through mine, and we can kind of compare notes after each one. Why
Okay,
not?
for sure. Perfect. So, all right, there, friends and fiends. So, my list is a little bit different from James's. I've selected materials from the DM's Guild that I think are just really well done and will bring a heckin' good time to your table. And half my list is comprised of exceptional resources for creators that are an absolute must for helping to further this well of creation that we have on the guild. And that ultimately makes life easier for those seeking to go down that path. Or even for a DM on how to make their life easier when crafting their own material for their table. So without further ado, let me show you my shopping list for the Play It Forward event. And they're in no particular order, so they're all must-haves from my perspective. So, the first one that we've got on this list is Elminsters Guide to Candlekeep, and it is written by a legendary team. You got the likes of Anthony Joyce, Justice Arman, Ed Greenwood himself. So anytime the creator of the Forgotten Realms works on something, definitely pause and take notice, because without a doubt it's going to end up becoming canon in the universe. So you got also MT Black, Jeremy Forbing, Trevor Armstrong, and Laura Hersbrunner. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of those last names. However, a solid team. It's a great setting supplement on one of the most legendary locations in the Forgotten Realms, which is Candlekeep itself, where most of the lore is stored for the history of the world, magic, kind of I think Hogwarts, I guess, for a more pop culture reference, if you will, and kind of the Jedi archives for a more sci-fi reference. So yeah. Oh, by the way, before I continue on, all the links for all this is going to be in the description below. So don't worry. You can go check it out while we're talking about it if you wish for a little bit more information. So I'm going to carry on to the next one I got, and that is the Blood Hunter. That is a one-on-one adventure, as well as the Blood Hunter class itself by if you don't know who Matt Mercer is, just quickly Google it. You'll figure it out.
Get out! Get
Right?
out!
Yeah. So these two absolutely you must do together. It's meant to be. And the Blood Hunter adventure is one that James and I recently played through together. It's written by Anthony Joyce, and it uses the custom class that Matt Mercer has developed, the Blood Hunter class, and they go together like peanut butter and jelly, and it is under $4. So I absolutely, if you're on a budget, and especially with the way that things are right now, this is something that's really affordable, and you'll definitely get your bang for your bucks on this one. Yeah. Other than that, okay, I've got The Border Kingdoms, it's called, and that is by Alex Kammer and Ed Greenwood himself. It's crazy. And it's one of the few times, like I said, that the creator himself of the Forgotten Realms has actually stepped back up to the plate in terms of writing after all these years. And, I mean, quite simply, it's a must-have. just give you a little description about it here, the amount of value that you'll be getting for this. It's 129 pages, and essentially what it does is it's a campaign setting, and it explains to you essentially how to set up your own kingdom within the border kingdoms, as that area is called, around the Forgotten Realms. So it's pretty cool, especially for higher tiers of play. It's a lot more challenging, and it has a lot more like of those sort of long-term big scale rewards. So you got over 100 pages of lore about the border kingdoms themselves, a beautiful new map, 11 new and fully developed adventures that are all Adventures League legal. So and yeah, like a whole bunch of campaign hooks for adventures to take place within this setting that Ed has fleshed out. So really cool, and it has also been recently officially approved by Wizards of the Coast as being canon. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, guys. So definitely something you want to pick up if you're a real fan just of the franchise and the lore. So yeah, the Border Kingdoms. Next one up I've got here is the Adventurer's Domestic Handbook by Lydia Van Hoy, Sadie Lowry, oh goodness, Chiara Perry, and Caleb Baines. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if I've mispronounced any of that. But regardless, this is an exhaustive guide for downtime activities with meaning. You've got, goodness me, like, I think there's 20 marriage ceremonies, 15 magic items, 17 stat blocks for different sorts of NPCs. You got subclasses. It's 153 pages of essentially, all the mechanics for doing things like homesteading, raising a family, making a business, and apprenticing in a trade. It just delves into all the stuff how do I say it, the killing and the slashing and everything that isn't combat pillar related in D&D, and kind of serving to just fill that void of what does your character do in between adventures, or perhaps when they're done adventuring and they want to just go on to normal life. Who knows? So yeah, there's that one. Then, okay, number 5 for me is simple 5e Microsoft Word template and beginner's guide, as well as the Adobe InDesign template and beginner's guide. The first one, the 5e Microsoft Word template, is by Laura Herzbrunner, and the Adobe InDesign template is by Nathaniel Rue. And again, sorry for the mispronunciation. These are some good names. But yeah, so these templates are an absolute must for creators just coming into the DM's Guild, or even veterans that find themselves struggling with creating templates on not just on the fly, but easily, And these are just solid templates that help you as a creator get started on your journey and just allow you to worry about really the most important thing, which is writing whatever it is you want to write, and then not having a complete panic attack about how am I supposed to make this presentable. For in both of these, depending on what program you'd like to use, it makes this task flawless and just simple. So beyond that, all the tools, I have to say all of them, you can get them for one crazy big price, or you can just pluck a few, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But all the tools by Rob Twohy for Fantasy Grounds. He's made a crazy amount of them. Like I said, you can grab them all for I think they're discounted to $500 from $2,000. I don't have anywhere near that kind of coin for that sort of thing, and I know probably most of us don't either. But I would say that I would recommend 5 of them, hands down. And that is the Random PC Generator, the Random Encounter Creator, the DM Tools, The effects for coding spells. So when you're playing online and one of your character players does a spell, there will actually be something happening on screen, which is pretty cool. And then you also
To get
have
ourselves fantasy grounds.
right? And then you also have the things for the class features as well. So when that barbarian pops into rage, you actually see something happen on the map as well, which is pretty dope. So those 5 I would recommend from him, hands down. And then going into number 7 on the list, we're coming in the last quarter here, is Blackstaff's Treasury of Items, written by...
That's a nice one.
it is, right? It's written by Jeremy Forbing, Micah Watt, Scott Bean, and Heath Harris. And oh my god, the amount of material that you're going to get on here, 107 pages first and foremost, and it is just items up the yin yang, magic items, normal common items, things that that you can use to like make assembled sets of things that are, oh man, it like, you should just go check it out. Just again, description or link in the description below. But this is an absolute must-have, and he absolutely wants people to pick this up and use it in other works as well. He really wants. He made items that are really digestible and that I think everybody would want to use at some point, either just at your table having fun, or even as a creator, if you're looking or thinking of putting something in your own work. He's cool with it. You have the full rights to use. So that's something that is both useful for players of the game as well as for creators. So that's why it made my list. Then we have Adaptable NPCs 1 and 2. This is a huge works done by Grim Press, Trevor Armstrong, and Jeffrey Fischer. And they just went to the nines on making a whole bunch of NPCs that were just adaptable, meaning they can be used in whatever way that a DM wants to use them. And there's just a lot of them. It's very exhaustive, but it's also very simple because they just give you some simple background lore, and a stat block and kind of a nice artwork to kind of give you a visual representation to run with as a DM. It's very simple. There's a lot of value here for your money, although I will say that, the second one is a little bit higher priced. And if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper and has a little bit more fleshed out NPCs that you're looking to have as like allies or enemies, James and I actually just recently have done a review about one, and I'll just tease that one, but I'm not putting that on the list. But it's an alternative one, but allies, enemies, and quests, that's a good one too, if you're looking for something a little bit more on the budget side of things. And then finally, the last one on my list is Tactical Maps, The Adventure Atlas, again by a legendary team, MT Black, Will Doyle, James Heck, James Introcaso, Rich Lescouflair, I believe. Ginny...
Lecouflair.
Thank you, sir.
I think.
You've got that. I know you've got the French pronunciation. We could be totally wrong. He could be from the Bayou. I don't know. Ginny Loveday, Sean Merwin, Cindy Moore, and Ashley Warren. This...
Bunch of great names there.
Yeah, 110%. This is a star-studded cast here. So you have 88 ready-to-play encounters to essentially to save your ass on game night if you haven't prepped as a DM. This is the definition of plug and play. They give you maps and everything to go with it to give you just encounters that are ready to go. Like, you should just... James, you would love this because you literally, you don't have to skim through. It's one page per, right? So you just literally you have everything self-contained on one page and you can just run with it. So definitely fantastic for all players and DMs out there. Will really help you guys elevate your game, especially when you're in a pinch. And I think creators could pick this up too on learning how they can synthesize making encounters for their own projects. So that's my top 10 list for your Play It Forward shopping list. Hope you enjoyed. And James, take her away.
Okay, so just a few points on your stuff. First, I have a couple bones to pick with you. You stole some of mine, but actually I stole yours because, I should have just read through your list first.
Oh well, that's the thing, guys. Candid reactions. We both didn't look at our list because we didn't want to influence each other, and shit. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So first off, a couple of mine. You grabbed the Blood Hunter. What was the other one? And the Monster Manual Expanded. I think there was one other one, but all in all,
Oh damn! Yeah, I totally forgot about that one.
uh,
Actually, do you want to explain that one? Or I?
the Monster Manual Expanded.
Yeah, I totally skipped over it. That's my bad.
Oh, okay. So the Monster Manual Expanded is just an amazing piece of work. I've got it pulled up in another tab. I'm very sad I can't show you, but it's around 327 pages.
Yeah.
It's a $16 book, and oh my goodness, does
Honestly,
it ever go on?
yeah.
Like it is perfect. Like this. So I'll explain a little bit more why I was looking for the Monster Manual book specifically, but this edition, just to put it lightly, let's go demons. They go through a Baylor Lord, about a Balgura Abductor, Balgura Pack Leader, and they build upon all of the different bad guys we do see in the typical one, but they add things like for bugbears, Bugbear Bruiser, a champion, a footpad, a priest, and a marauder. Those things aren't always touched on. They have very specific ones in the monster manual, but not ones as in depth or going into the minutia that you might see within your campaign, like, oh, what's a stat block for a ranger bandit? Nobody freaking knows. But this is what that Monster Manual Expanded does. It does touch on a lot of those things, and there are two versions. So there's a part 1 and a part 2. So if part 1 is 327 pages, I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar that the second one is just about 300 and some pages as well. So for that,
yeah, it's
like
300,
crazy.
it's 314.
Holy cow. Yeah. So
Yeah, 390 creature stat blocks in the
yeah,
second one.
it's crazy. There's just so much in there, and it's just beautiful. It's a great tool, even if you don't use those stats. Even if you do what I call the DM fudge when it comes to monsters. Like you want your group to fight a dragon, or like a young dragon. So you'd go young adult red dragon, page 81 or something of the sort.
Yeah.
I would just like drop the hit points, drop some of the stats, and maybe remove an attack, right?
Yeah.
Just based on what level it is. That's what I would kind of call my DM fudge.
Yep.
But that's this Monster Manual Expanded really does allow for that platform for a lot of flexibility, because it does delve into some of the more unknown things, whereas otherwise DMs would just kind of have to spitball.
I agree with you completely. Essentially what this does is, if you're really one of those planning heavy DMs that really likes to plan out their sessions ahead of time, and you have a really fleshed out world, but you find that, like, especially like you mentioned with like the devils and the demons that are as written in the lore supposed to be really expansive factions with a lot of different players, and then you only see like 10 or 12 monsters in the core monster manual. In regards to it, you're like, well, and a lot of them being kind of goons or monstrous creatures, you're like, well, how on earth are these supposed to be like really well developed factions with different roles? And this kind of solves that, especially like you said, with things like mercenaries and more humanoid NPCs, shall we, or not NPCs, monsters, shall we say, creatures, things that you fight, right? So yeah, what this essentially does is it takes that aspect of like having to sweat in the moment to try and just fandangle, exactly, fandangle something. Or like I said, if you are a planner kind of DM, planning heavy kind of DM, then this is your best friend, because it's going to end up saving you hours upon hours of making things yourself, and then like you trying to crunch the numbers and be like, oh, I don't know if this is balanced or not, and I'm going to ruin all my party, they're going to hate me. No, like
I'm going to TPK just for shits and gigs.
Exactly, right? This one, it just fleshes out all like as much as humanly possible as they could, these sort of different creatures and factions and kind of subset creatures that have different mechanics to them, that are just gonna totally spice up your night. And it would like, why I'm excited about it too is this would really put those metagamers, they'd be out to lunch and be like, oh fuck, I have to learn 390 new creatures, and it's like, not even, bro, that was just part one.
No, exactly. The other thing I'd like to mention here before kind of carrying along, not to cut you off, buddy,
No, please, sorry.
but no. But this is one of those situations where having provided more guidelines or like more of a sandbox to actually play in doesn't actually hinder a DM, and that's typically very difficult. So you kind of get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
where sometimes you add more rails or walls, and it makes things a little bit difficult to kind of be flexible with. Not in this case, not with the Monster Manual it expanded part 1 and 2. It does give you that flexibility, like you were saying, to just kind of go, okay, I want a hippogriff, but I want a nasty one, not
Yeah.
just a hippogriff. So here I go, right?
Exactly.
So to kind of carry on, I have a little bit of exposition I need to give in regards to how I did my list.
Oh, 100%. Go ahead. Yeah.
The way I did my list was I kind of role played. I was like, okay, I'm going to be sitting down with a group of people, and whether it's over Skype, Fantasy Grounds, if I had it, or Zoom, or however many, like Google Hangouts too. Like that's what we're using. And what I would do is I'd go, okay, I'm going to run a one shot, but what do I want to have happen in this one shot? And what can I use from a pre-existing one shot, or can I use the entire thing, or do I just want to take bits and pieces? So when I looked at my one shot stuff, I looked at something that was really expansive, that had a bunch of lore, bunch of maps and locations and things to go through. So the first one on my list was my setting, and this setting is the Lost City of Mezro, and that comes in a long line of DM's Guild products. Let me see. It's all about the Cahult area.
Cholt, yeah.
Yeah, Cholt. Yeah, sorry. The
Gotcha.
Cholt area, the forces of darkness within there, and it has a long history involved in it. Now, it does say, if I open up my full size preview here, let's see. So this is broken down into like 4 different parts, and they're all just beautifully done. There's an amazing team that worked on this. So designers, Rich Lecouffler, Will Doyle. Let's see. Editing was James Interocaso, Sean Merwin. Art direction was Rich, yet again. Cover art was by Dean Spencer. And there's more names under interior art than what you'd see in like a Star Wars movie for CGI design. So like they just did amazing. Oh yes, this is connected to the Tomb of Annihilation, like you had mentioned before, and it's got a beautiful story to it. Like just the introduction on the full preview was enough to get me going. Like, oh, maybe I should just get this just to read it for fun.
Yeah.
So amazingly done. And one thing I haven't seen in any other work thus far is they give abbreviations for things: HP, hit points, AC, armor class, LN, lawful neutral, LE, lawful evil. Like I haven't seen that outside of the Wizards of the Coast stuff themselves. So amazing job there. And once again, as we love to harp on for our intrigue and player draw sections in our normal videos, is amazing artwork, like absolutely phenomenal. So I would have used this to essentially start my campaign, just kind of give my characters that point to chase after. Now, if I was working with a pre-existing campaign, I'd go, okay, obviously, when I run my next campaign, I kind of want to do things a little bit differently, and this will bring me to my second thing, which is ancestral weapons. Now, what are ancestral weapons, you say? I'll just steal the excerpt right from the page. A noble blade wielded in the Blood Wars, an axe used to protect the great city of Mirabar from orc invasions, or a powerful staff passed down by great sorcerers through the eons. Ancestral weapons are iconic within role-playing. These weapons embody a character's family, story, and history. So there's rules for scaling. There's over 130 weapon upgrades to make your weapon as unique as your character. Rules to quick build magic items for your campaign. The Spirit Point crafting system, allowing players to forge unique and thematically appropriate weapons. This is the sort of stuff that, when we talked about our objective criteria, everything in here would kind of apply to our example there, which is, this quest gives this much lore for this weapon, and that's why it's in the story, right? That's why it's in the campaign, because it's more of a quest line than it is just a weapon. And that's what a lot of these provide. And once again, the artwork is just amazing. And this is like $3.96 on the DMsGuild.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention it, but for the Lost City of Mezro, it's $11.96. So 12 bucks. 12 bucks will get you an amazing one-shot campaign, or even just a campaign altogether. And $4 will get you these wicked weapons that you can spend tons of time crafting and just like quest grinding out for your group. So why is this in my list? Because this is something I would use in my base campaign that I would be starting. So my future campaign, this is one of the things I would definitely include just right off the bat. One of my next ones that falls into a similar category of something I would be introducing at the beginning of a campaign, or if I was doing a one-shot, I would just kind of apply this rule, like the ancestral weapons, to that one-shot. And it's called Wild Magic for every class. So what this does is, it might sound a little crazy, but what this provides is how these sorcerers have wild magic surges where they roll on a D100 chart or table. Certain things happen. So on one of the full previews for a barbarian, on a 23 to 24, a purple ogre controlled by the DM appears next to you and disappears after 1 minute. That's a random one, right? And so these things cover like surges, rules of how to use it, advice for how to use them, and it just kind of adds that nice little flavor and zest to put into your campaign. Especially if you have a smaller group, it does provide a little bit of a chance to kind of boost their power just by happenstance, but it could also severely hinder them. So if I had to say, like, who is this for, I could say it's for anyone, but just, beware that you could, end up really screwing yourself, just because of how the dice roll. But this is well laid out charts, easy to follow, easy to read, and everything is broken down very, very nicely. It's done by class, in alphabetical order, no less, which kind of makes me happy. And let's see, it was written and designed by Dave Penfilo. I hope I've pronounced that appropriately. Illustrations by Matthew Dobrich. Previewed by a name I swear to goodness I'm going to mispronounce, so I apologize. I will just have to say Davis is the last name. Lucas Fawcett, Sean Ireland, and Jonathan Ying. So, great job to the whole team that did this. Wild Magic for every class. It's one of the reasons that I like to play Wiggly Fingers, because it gives me that opportunity to have that little extra chaos in the game.
Yeah.
Blood Hunter was also going to be one of the classes I would allow to be used within this theoretical one-shot or campaign that I'd be running. The next one is I guess kind of makes me a little lazy on the DM side of things, but I don't have quite the mind for puzzles and predicaments and stuff.
Mm.
But this really does kind of pull from that old advanced D&D kind of puzzle situation. And there's, let's see, uh, so the full name: Puzzles, Predicaments, and Perplexities. Um, Also on sale for about $3.99, so $4 altogether. Um, this provides 10 original puzzles for use in your adventure, instructions on how to scale the difficulty of the puzzles for characters of all levels. That is impressive. It gives hints for each puzzle to guide players towards the solution without simply giving it away, which is also a part of my problem as a DM, giving puzzles. I usually just kind of like end up spitting it out. I once did this one where I had to make I gave my players a steam engine to run, and they had like a couple of valves and a handful, like, "You're 1/6 son of a bitch." And I apologize for my use of profanity in this, but not PG-13. There we go. Aha. Um, so yeah, this provides and additionally 5 original maps suitable for in-person or online play, which is really cool. 4 handouts that help visualize the layouts, runes, symbols, and symbols involved with some of the puzzles. So I looked through on the full preview, and oh my goodness, the work that this team put into doing this is truly phenomenal. Like, it's great. So it is created by Steve Jasper Orr, nice, and Bill Patrino. I hope I've pronounced those names right.
That sounds good to me.
But that would also be something that I would kind of involve in my narrative to really, like, not kill the pace. But if I notice my players are kind of getting ahead of things and moving through really fast, because as we know, RP players tend to move a little bit slower. In certain cases, war gamers, murder hobos, and the like do tend to like charge through brute force. So if you're running a one shot or a dungeon and you need to kind of cut the pace just to kind of keep a little bit of tension and excitement, this would be a great drop in, plug in, and go. So that's why that one made my list. The next one, like I've just talked about at the end of yours, was the Monster Manual Expanded for 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have to unfortunately glaze over that. And now I get into a little bit more of what I miss doing as a player, which was sea combat.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah. So the next one I have on my list is Sea Beasts and How to Kill Them. So this was written by Brandon Norris. It's $3.16. Pardon me. There's 36 pages, decent art, and yeah, the catch line for this is: about to run a swashbuckling sea campaign, but worried your players already know every finned foe in the monster manual? Because let's face it, there's only a handful. This does expand on them, create new ones. Let's see: aquatic elves, beamfish, blood jelly swarm, cliff drake, corals, coral golem, drillfish, elementals, giant harpoon clam, guildfish, just a bunch of really just awesome things. And the layout within is still very well done. Um, I do believe that while I was going through, I might have picked up a few things that are like 4th edition or AD&D and things like that. But the conversion to 5th edition is super easy. It just takes a little bit of tweaking. I don't think this one is 4th edition. This is 5th edition. There we go. Yeah, just on the right hand side of the page. Whew, look at me go. Um, but yeah, so why did I put this one on my list? Sea beasts and how to kill them. I feel there's a distinct lack of sea creatures because there's so much to do in either Faerun, Eberron, or the Feywild, or Cult, and a bunch of other places. And it's all on land. Everybody just kind of sails freely. Fair enough. But in a situation like using my list here, where the lost city of Mezro, I would, have an encounter on the ocean as my players are sailing to this island or sailing to this location and traveling to and fro.
Gotcha. And if I may just jump in too,
Yeah, fire away.
this hands down, without a doubt, is going to add to the flavor of the only nautical seafaring adventure module that has recently come out last year, or no, yes, last year, technically calendar year,
Mhm.
last summer, which is the Ghosts of Saltmarsh campaign.
Oh, yes.
And so Saltmarsh is kind of its own little setting. It's technically a Greyhawk setting, which is something we haven't seen in a long time. But
Yeah.
that is a completely aquatic campaign. And one of the main critiques that it's gotten, if any, it's been overall well received, but the main critiques that they have is still around some of the mechanics with underwater combat, and yes, with like just we need more aquatic based creatures and monsters and things to do, because even in Saltmarsh, like it's still pretty straightforward. I wouldn't call it bare bones, but they've only fleshed out like the Sahagin, and there's so much more. There's so much more, like you said, lore and like real world mythology that could be drawn on and embodied. So I agree. This could be something that if people are running that campaign in particular, if they were just running Wizards of the Coast and they're not doing their own, definitely add that to your list. And then James, I'm gonna let you continue on in terms of just how on its own this is fantastic.
No, absolutely. And, funny you should mention that because my next one does exactly explain a lot of these things. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky. I had to do a fair bit of digging to find this one. And the only reason I added it to my list was because I am familiar with the AD&D rules. So this shows up as second edition. This is the DMGR 9 of Ships and the Sea, second edition. So it's for $10 on the DMsGuild. And honestly, the beautiful thing about AD&D rules way back was they were either super strict or had plenty of room to float around. Now, the old, like, I say old, I'm sorry for anyone who's listening who's, older than me and is like,
I grew up with this, man.
oh my God, you're saying it's old? This came out when I was, yeah, I grew up with this, you punk kid. Yeah, I'm sorry. I grew up like flipping through my dad's old AD&D books, and I'm pretty sure he had one chainmail book. One. And that was like original
Oh
D&D
damn,
stuff.
yeah, that's
So,
yeah, exactly. The
yeah,
progenitor.
that was before it was called Dungeons and Dragons. Um, anyways, so the thing I really enjoy about the AD&D stuff is the illustration, the text format, and just how weathered the pages would look. Not because the books are old. I'm not hitting on that head again. What I'm saying is just how they designed the pages to look were just exquisite. It makes you feel like you're actually looking into another world. But with this one, what it provides is close to it's the way it's set up is interesting. 128 pages. There we go. It has 128 pages on everything about sea combat, fighting underwater. Um, let's see, creature movement, creature and missile fire, artillery fire, ramming, boarding, um, rowing as a movement, sailing, wind strength, wind direction. Like it covers a lot of ground, but because it is second edition, it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of transfer some of this stuff over. But it does allow for your DM to take this idea and the principle of it and, like I've mentioned before, kind of fudge it into the campaign so that way you can use it as a hindrance or a bonus for your players depending on what they kind of need, right? And so a couple other things that it has, not to give any spoilers or stuff, but underwater topology. So continental shelves, slopes, canyons. Like it's so detailed because AD&D covered a bunch of stuff in great detail to fill in those gaps, right? It was just amazingly well done. I think this would fit nicely uh, in conjunction with Sea Beasts and How to Kill Them and Salt Marsh. You know, using all of that combined, you could get a really cool one shot or campaign or dungeon crawl, even, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why this one was added to my list, because I would kind of use it as a quick reference or something to give me ideas for when I go to run a campaign that's going to have ship travel or ship combat or things like that. So it's kind of a nice jump off point for me. Um, and that again leads me into a more modern edition of it, which is Captains and Cannons, a ship combat guide in D&D 5e. Now, this one is by Jeffrey Yang. It's $6.40 roughly. It's got 13 sample ships to use and adapt to your own campaign, 6 sample combat encounters, each with their own plot hook, unique ship, and captains, 4 sample environmental challenges, complex weather patterns modeled after the complex trap in Xanthar's Guide to Everything, and a list of ship equipment to upgrade and customize your vessel to fit your way of playing. So while the previous piece I mentioned is more about the finite details of fighting underwater, fighting on a ship, and all this stuff, this one is more updated for ship combat and has a lot more accessibility to it and is easier to plug and play into your stuff. So once again, I know I haven't really said much of it in my reviews so far, or my top 10 list, but these are all really awesome pieces of work. If nothing else, at least check them out. Just give them a quick scan through with the full-size previews, read through the descriptions, and see if it fits your bill. And you never know. Right now, with these sales going on, you could grab something for pretty cheap and put it in your toolkit and have it come up later down the road.
Yeah,
Could be.
that was the only other thing I was gonna say too. Is like, yeah, a lot of these items, a lot of the creators are creating bundles that you can find these things in for crazy discounted prices, and there's just discounts in general on everything for this event because they, really trying to support this community, because the creators, I just stress that lastly, the creators are the ones who are going to be fully benefiting for the first time from this, and as a result we could end up actually, for a lot of them, they reinvest this into their next work, right?
Absolutely.
Or at the bare minimum, people who are affected right now with, as we see, so many people unemployed, this might be putting food on their tables. So just things to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my last and final piece, I really struggled to find my top 10 because there's so many great pieces of work on the DM's Guild. I could have just gone through the very front page and just gone through each and every single one of them. But what I did for my 10th was a little bit different. This, again, maybe it's my capability as a DM that I'm kind of questioning here, but it is the Fox Heart Inn and Tavern by Ben Gin Games. That's gin like the
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
The stuff I can't drink, right?
No, not the stuff that you can't drink.
Oh.
Also vodka. You're banned. No more. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, he is not allowed to drink before we do filming.
Yeah, that's why I never do. Nope.
No, he wouldn't. I joke. Anyways, so why did I pick this one out? I picked it out because after a while, spitballing and making up your own taverns and inns, they all start to kind of have the same blend and flavor. And eventually you all have that one innkeep that's like, hello, how are you? What can I get you today? How can I help you? And you're just like, oh my God, is this guy working at every freaking inn and tavern in the local area? Jesus. So instead of that, I pulled someone else's idea, and not only does it come with maps, like, oh my goodness, it has characters in it. It's got a, might I say, a beautiful map layout for the living quarters, the ground floor, the cellar, um, the staff, patrons, details. Just it, ah, it's beautiful. Um, there's so much to it. This also, in addition, includes a new unique enemy, including stats and weapons. Unfortunately, I can't see that in a full preview. Oh, but now I really want to. Um, but yeah, I found that this is a nice thing to kind of toss in and include because as many DMs can suffer from the creativity fatigue and having everything kind of blended into a grayish mixture of inns and taverns and, running out of ways to say ye olde pub. Um, I grabbed this to kind of have that nice place that my players can call home. Because there's nothing more satisfying than, like in real life, you finish work and maybe with your coworkers you go out for a for some food or whatever, and you just kind of chill and you talk about the day and you talk about that one person or the other person or whatever have you, right? Just the idle banter. This gives me that sort of feeling when I read through it and when I feel it. So that's why I picked it up. Great work on all of these works. That's my top 10. I know I might have only spoken about 8 or 9,
Mm-hmm.
but it's because you had kind of taken 2 of mine, which is the Blood Hunter and the Monster Manual Expanded.
The good thing is you got to explain on the monster manual because I did fail to explain it. So, I mean, that's good.
But yeah, I think that kind of concludes my list. Definitely go check all these out. In the video description, after all this is done, we should have all the links to all these things, and you'll be able to check them out. And I think, Eric, what about our um, affiliate link? How can our viewers use that affiliate link?
Okay, for sure. So, you can just use the catch-all affiliate link, which supports James and I to continue to do uh, what we're doing with our full-length reviews. Because we do need some coffee and we do need some farmers wraps when we do it. It also helps to pay for some electricity
Yeah.
for those lights too, and to just help us continue to grow and get better on a channel. And what that link will do is just like anything that you guys buy on the DMs Guild, we see like 5% of that. So it will help us out tremendously, especially during this event. Um, like I said, the creators will be getting 100% of whatever you are putting towards it, purchasing, and then we're just getting a little something thrown our way. So like I said, go ahead, use that link to check out all these wonderful products and any other products that you're personally thinking of buying on the DMs Guild anyways, because that is going to be tremendously helpful to James and I to continue to contribute and do our part for the community and for you guys, because that's what we're ultimately here to do, is to provide as best of a service as we possibly can, and to have fun while doing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given, but we would just really like to be able to have the opportunity to continue to grow and develop our capacity. So that would help us do that. Um, yeah, and then like I said, I just want to stress again, just about supporting people during this period of time. This is
Absolutely.
our top 10 list from both of us. We will be blasting our Twitter and social media a little bit until the 17th as well about other products that we recommend / we just like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of chatter going on in the community anyways, as is, but definitely you guys can trust us when it comes to the kind of the reviews that we've done, our style. That we're informed about the choices that we're making. So if you guys would also not mind checking some of those tweets out for this time around, for some highly recommended ones as well that we're just for sake of time not able to cover here. Um, And yeah, like obviously just another no-brainer one too. But all the ones that we've already reviewed up until this date that are on the YouTube channel, I definitely we've already recommended that you go pick it up, but we definitely recommend checking out those videos and then maybe making that decision during this
Mm-hmm.
period of time as well, just to again really hit home and help out those creators.
Absolutely. And just to kind of hit that point home before we sign off here, there's sales going on for tons of these modules, add-ons, everything. Like you mentioned before, all the way till May 17th. So go out there, go support your creators, and you know, uh, there's there's so many great options out there. Give them a good, honest look, and you know, just have fun. That's what this is all about. Go out there, have fun, add to your toolkits, bring stuff to your DM if you're a player watching this, and let's all play some D&D.
Heck yeah! So
Eric?
yeah, no, I think you nailed it on the head. I just do our send them through the rift, buddy.
Absolutely. So, with that, we will see
See
you
you
through
through
the
the rift.
rift.